In this tutorial, I will show how to create a new project, do some presets, and show how to model a new scenario or a room. Before you create a new project, you maybe want to change the units. You can choose between SE units or EP units, depending on which kind of unit system you use in your country. To create a new project, go to Project, New Project. Here I can specify a name. You could give it a more detailed description. Next, you define what kind of building type it is, mid-rise, residential, etc. Choose office in this case, and here you can specify Project North. I just leave it for now because I can change this when I go into the scenario part. The location, you also need to specify that there is not that many default locations. In this case, I have created one for Denmark, Copenhagen. It has always, when you create these locations, a default wall, so you don't have to specify that. But you can change this later when you create scenarios. And this is what you can choose on this level. Some functionality is not currently available, but it probably will be in the future. Click OK. Now we can see here we don't have any scenarios, it's totally blank everything. The only thing that is shown is climate condition because we have chosen the location of Copenhagen, so you have data for the weather and climate already. The next step would be to create a scenario. I could either create one or copy one or import it a scenario from another project. In this case, I will create a new one, giving a logical name. Here I can specify the proportion of the room. If I haven't chosen the SE units, then it wouldn't have been in meters or watt per square meter. And here I have the opportunity of choosing the orientation. If you don't know anything about the loads, then just leave it as default values. The amount of people you need to find because they have a huge impact on the internal loads. An idea could be that before you create a scenario, you have done some sketching and studies of how many people there could be in this room type. For this case, I'll say 8 people. And the HVAC system you cannot specify, but it doesn't matter. But this will probably be option in the future. Clicking OK. So now I've created a new scenario. This tells me that this scenario needs to be calculated. This is just the ID number and the name of the room, orientation, wall to window ratio, and how many windows and which kind of glazing system I have. But at the moment it's totally blank. Double click on this. Then I come to page where I can edit, modify the geometry and material for this scenario. And here I can choose another wall type. I have created one down here called design wall that is customized for the Danish structure types. In COMFEN we only look at external wall. We don't look at surrounding walls or ceilings or floors. It's only calculating the external walls. Then we have isolated a specific task to look at: the wall and facade, the windows, and of course in relation to the room proportion, the depth, height and width. Here we also can specify lighting control system, that is, could choosing continuous control by the glare control. Written here, when the box is checked, shading system is deployed if the maximum glare index of 22 is exceeded. Here we can choose the HVAC economizer, and in this case I'm choosing temperature. For creating a window, I go to the window page tab, clicking on the plus, the green one, calling window 1, specifying the size of the window, the seal height, and the distance from the left wall, and choosing glazing system. Here I can also choose what kind of shading system it has. This is the shading system that is built into the window. It could maybe be this one. You can specify which kind of frame it has. The frame is actually have a quite impact on both the solar gain and the daylight, as well as the energy need because of the thermal bridges and the joints between wall and window. And last, the setback, the inset into the wall. It could be 10 centimeters, for example, and click add. So now I've added a window. I specified in the window browser between the left wall and the seal height, but actually I also have the opportunity to model it directly in this interface or moving it around. I also have the possibility of choosing another kind of glazing system or window shade system. by dragging the glazing system onto the window. Then I changed the window, as you could see down here. The glazed wall, if we don't want to have a window, we can choose a curtain wall in here called glazed wall. But for this we need to delete this. Then we can enter a curtain wall here at the top bar, add glazed wall, again specifying the frame, the height of this curtain walls, how many horizontal frame elements you can see on this picture here, and how many vertical frames we want to have, and glazing system. And if we want to have shading system, we can specify that as well. Clicking done. These elements in the curtain wall system can be changed to solid elements, set to spandrel, and here we get the types that is built into this template. We could, for example, choosing this one, and we can see now it is solid with a gray color. And if we want to edit, we can just edit down here. If we instead want to have some kind of wall shades here, this is not the same as the shading system. This is shades geometry. If we add one here, I'll call it for shade 1. Typically it may be easier to just let it be like this and just add, and then moving to the place where it should be, because it's not always that easy to know the position. And then after you can go in and edit it by double clicking and then optimize the proportions and then click done. If we go to the section view, you can see the shade here, and the shade of course also have a depth that is easy to see here. When we are finished with creating this scenario, we click done, come back to the simulation window, and if we change this to scenario and go to comparison, we can drag this scenario into the simulation part and get a 3D view of this scenario we are creating. Typically you want to create more than just one scenario to compare them. That's one of the strengths with COMFEN. So that would be the next step, creating more scenarios, and then simulate the different scenarios, and finally compare the scenarios. Then you will have a better basis for taking a decision on which of the scenarios that is most effective in relation to the energy need, thermal comfort, visual comfort,